Oh dear.
All right. I'm ready when you are.
All right, let's do it.
As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. We have episode 3, minus the pilot. Ich Nissan. What other languages we got here? Uno, dos, tres. I can't roll my R's, but welcome. That's three. That was 3 languages. I think that's all I got. Well, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. Wait, no, that was only 3. I'm struggling.
Do you have to get your flashcards out again? Do we need to get your flashcards
I thought
out?
we were doing this on Monday to begin with, and here we are. It's Sunday, and I was actually giving my daughter a bath, and I got done and looked at the phone, and I was like, man, what am I doing with my life? I'm just falling apart each and every day. That's why I don't know. We'll talk about that a little later. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is going to be episode number 3 of our favorite Burn and Return. We're going to be reviewing this week's news from the green, turfgrass, and agricultural industries. And I am joined by my lovely cohorts here. I'm Matt Martin, but I've also got Mr. Ray Ito. Ray, how are you doing?
I'm doing well for a Sunday. Doing pretty well.
That's good. Well, hopefully we don't have to worry about too much violence going on in your neck of the woods, and everybody's safe, and we can all continue to put forth our best efforts of keeping you safe, whatever that means. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, Ray. Are you safe?
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Matt. Sorry, I don't need a nanny or a mommy. I take care of myself just fine.
Blink
I think,
once if you're okay. Blink twice if you need help, Ray.
It just makes me wonder what Ray's safe word would be. What do you think? I'm thinking like chlorides or centipede. Like if Ray says one of those things, you know that shit is fucked up. Like there is something bad going on. So we gotta get Ray a safe word so we know if he's been kidnapped. If the dogs that live behind him are holding him hostage.
We've got the king of safe words down at the on the far end of the screen there. Obviously, you're not looking at a screen. You're listening to this in either end of your headphone. But we've got Mr. DeMay down there. How are you, sir? Do you have any safe words you need to share with us? He's thinking about it.
What happened? No, I'm sorry. I lagged out there for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, I said, are there any safe words you need to share with us that in the event something goes sideways, that where we know to pull the plug and come launch a rescue mission?
Yeah. So zoysia is actually mine. So if you hear me say zoysia, that means
Oh dear.
there are either women and children. There's women and children present, and you should really watch your fuck count, or something seriously wrong has taken place, and I am in need of help. So yes. Zoysia. If I drop that in there randomly, I am full of shit and I need some help.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah,
Zoysia.
Yeah,
Yes.
send the rescue squad.
All right, well, we kind of babbled enough there. We're going to move right on into one of my favorite segments. Gentlemen, let's start talking about this week's headlines.
Nothing to fear here. This is just the news.
All right, guys, I'm not going to lie. I read this headline and I burst out laughing. I like out loud burst out laughing. And the headline is from TampaBay.com, one of their news publications over there, and it starts like this: in reversal, EPA won't allow radioactive fertilizer byproduct in roads. Now, as we kind of dive into this and unpack it, it's not quite as horrific as the headline reads, as I've come to find out. But basically, what they are talking about here is phosphogypsum, and basically, when they break down phosphate rock, which they are using to make phosphorus for fertilizers, they're left over with this byproduct that they have to get rid of, and apparently they're using it as part of their infrastructure projects, right? And they were saying that they're worried about it because there is some activity taking place with this calcium byproduct that's going to be left over. Because chances are, and Ray, you can kind of fill me in over here, if they're mining just listen here, I've already heard the headline music once, computer. I don't need it 2 times, damn it. Listen, if you just talk to it like an angry, ornery old man, it'll abide by whatever you put
that's
in front of it.
That's J Pink using the Rode Studio. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I taught it what was up. It's all good. Ray, fill me in on the chemistry here. You got phosphogypsum. I assume they're dissolving this with sulfuric acid or something of the sort. I don't know. Tell me, what are they doing with phosphogypsum to convert that? This is from the old. Who was the fertilizer manufacturer in Florida that Anuvia bought their facility? I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'm
Starts
drawing a
with an M.
blank myself.
I can't either,
No
but
idea.
Ray, tell me the chemistry here. How are they breaking apart phosphogypsum and turning that into phosphorus fertilizer?
Okay, when you react phosphogypsum or phosphate rock with sulfuric acid, what happens is you then create crude phosphoric acid, but the byproduct is, of course, calcium sulfate, also known as gypsum, plus whatever minerals or metals, etc., present in that phosphate rock are then a part of your gypsum waste product. And do you know what's in close association with calcium and phosphorus?
Our bones?
Okay, close enough. Cesium, strontium, and a few other. No, in fact, let's put it this way: the entire lower half of the periodic table.
Which is mostly not good stuff for human
Yeah,
consumption.
it's mostly it's mostly
Do
not
we call
good
those
stuff. And
heavy
even-
metals?
No, actually, I call those the actinides or the radioactive metals. The stuff that glows in the dark, Matt.
Oh,
Or makes you glow in the dark.
yeah,
Or makes you glow in the dark.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tasty.
Yeah.
I guess
tasty.
that's not
And
quite
by
the
the
same as
way,
putting MSG on your steak.
no, not quite the same. And because, for example, calcium and strontium are so close on the periodic, and when it goes to your bones, that's where it gets sketchy, because radioactive strontium then is irradiating your bone marrow 24/7 once you've ingested it. And when it irradiates your bone marrow, cancer.
Which is not a good thing. And and with the fertilizer plant that they reached an agreement with to lease time at their facility is actually Mosaic, is the
Mosaic,
company,
yeah.
which is a public massive fertilizer company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is really like I had no idea about this until I saw this and just started looking into it. I mean, this is like a total ecological disaster playing out now in slow motion, but looks like it's going to accelerate because they've got a holding pond that right now, as of April, was releasing 22,000 gallons a day or a minute. I think it's a minute. no, it's got to be a day that
Yeah, so
they're trying to
they had to
drain these
evacuate
off.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, this is like some Aaron
Yup.
Brockovich shit here, boys.
Actually,
It's Flint, Michigan,
worse than
part 2.
yeah, actually, I think it's worse because essentially, what happened in the Pacific Islands, or what's happening right now in Fukushima, Japan, or Chernobyl, because the same kind of elements are involved. The same stuff is being released.
Well, then the other thing there too is that Florida is a state of aquifers, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of desal plants that are providing drinking water. So, where do these things sit in relation to those aquifers? I mean, I'm just saying that this is kind of like one of those things that say 40 years ago, back in the 70s, when much to our chagrin in some ways, the EPA comes on the scene in 1970, but there was a lot of dumb and stupid and horrible shit that was going on prior to that. Now, some of the ways they've chosen about going about their business and everything like that have definitely been onerous, right, to our industry. However, this plant is supplying phosphorus to basically anybody who has a need for phosphorus in the United States. And so it's not just turf, it's not just ag, right? Like, there's a number of different reasons that they're processing that there. But again, this is like old school type of stuff where it's been done that way for years and years and years and years. And quite frankly, it wasn't a problem until it became a huge, massive, major fucking problem, And now what do you do with it, right? How do you clean it up? How do you mitigate this situation? And unfortunately, I think you're going to have a lot of people that are out of their homes, a lot of people that are out of jobs, things like that are going to have to move, because I just don't see a way. And Ray, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a way that the adjacent lands in this case are going to be habitable, right? Based on how they've stockpiled this stuff and impounded it, and now they have no more room for it. And what do we do next? And nobody knows the answer to that question.
Well, to add a layer of real quick, to add a layer of complexity to this, they were pumping out 215 million gallons of contaminated wastewater directly into Tampa Bay, right? And if you want to look at this, the company that owns this property here is called HRK Holdings, and you can Google it. And boy, the Google reviews, they have 36 Google reviews with an average of 1.3 stars, and it's just picture after picture after picture of dead fish in the bay. And so the Department of Environmental Protection out of Florida actually filed a lawsuit against HRK Holdings. This was just 2 days ago, and that is over what they dumped in. So what's funny is that, at the time that this article was written, they were like, oh, yeah, they got approval. They're just going to pump this 200 million gallons directly into Tampa Bay in Port Manatee. And then it turns out, maybe not. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea after all. So handled pretty poorly. And I don't know. I got to say, at least from the standpoint of this company, HRK Holdings, which I'm not exactly familiar with what they do. It sounds like they handle bulk, dry, and liquid product storage. Maybe their methodology of handling storage is simply just pumping it into the ocean. I don't know. Listen, I'm not versed in this stuff, and I do understand dilution is the solution to pollution. However, you talk about triggering right there. I mean, even that, I get a little lax on some of this stuff, but I don't know about pumping radioactive contaminated wastewater into the ocean, especially at Port Manatee and Tampa Bay.
If you did a 2-hour radio show on a guy spraying the gate into the air, I think we could probably do like at least 5-6 hours on these motherfuckers right here, right? Come on, right?
Yeah, we could, because tell me now, guys, do people catch and eat fish in the waters around Florida.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I've caught
Oh,
and eaten the
God.
fish out of the waters of Tampa Bay.
Oh, no. Oh, fuck. I mean, because, you know, that, for example, is the reason why, one of the reasons why I don't eat fish. Because I don't want to glow in the dark. I don't want to be
That's why Ray's
irradiated.
paying $22 a pound for ribeye out in Honolulu right now.
Exactly.
He wants that.
I
He
still
wants
continue
that
to eat
pure
fish, I'm not gonna
corn-fed
lie.
Midwestern shit.
That's right. Give me
Well-
that. Give me that Midwestern beef, please.
And I think this is a perfect segue into our next headline here, which is there's a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico this summer that's bigger than Connecticut. And after hearing about Tampa Bay being dumped with a couple 100 million gallons of contaminated, highly contaminated water, is it really any kind of shocker here that we have a dead zone the size of Connecticut off the coast of damn Florida and the Gulf of Mexico? I'm not stunned. I'll say that.
Hardly surprising to me because dilution is, of course, the solution to pollution until it's not. Until it's not.
Critical thresholds are met and then disaster ensues, right? And that's
exactly.
clearly what has happened here. And you know, for those of you that are wondering, and I'm going to quote from here because I'm not a marine biologist or anything like that. I'm sorry. I just got sent a picture by Brandon Falk in the one of our members here. Thank you for being a great member, Brandon Falk. And that picture you just sent is absolutely hilarious, and it caught me off guard. So not a marine biologist, but from what this article is telling me here, nutrients such as nitrogen or even especially phosphorus. I know phosphorus can lead to the growth, the beginning of the growth of algae, and then nitrogen can feed the growth of algae. And then when the algae dies, the decay consumes oxygen faster than it can be brought down from the surface. As a result, fish, shrimp, and crabs can suffocate. And then, you know, like we were talking about on the Google reviews of HRK holding company there, you know, not looking good because they have lots of pictures of lots of massively dead animals being fished out of the surrounding waters. I mean, turtles. I mean, that's a giant grouper in one of those pictures. Gentlemen, this is one of those things that regardless of what your thoughts are and everything, this is fucked up. This is wrong. It's the only way I can look at it.
Well, and so here's the thing: is that you've got a disparate group of states. You've got, you know, the federal government that are all responsible in some way or another of kind of shepherding this watershed. Right? We're seeing it with the Great Lakes, and we'll talk about that here coming up in our returns, I believe. Where you got a bunch of people looking at each other in the room saying, "Well, it's not my fault." Well, you know what? It doesn't matter whose fucking fault it is at this point. It matters what you're going to do in the future. And seeing this shit, like, you know, I will say this is, we get a bad rap. We get people saying all the time, well, you know, all you guys do is spray chemicals and spread fertilizers and you're part of the problem, right? No, we're not. We're using those things responsibly to do what we know how to do, what we've been trained how to do, what science backs up. What these motherfuckers are doing, though, is patently wrong. It's irresponsible. And it's breaking the fucking law. And they should be held accountable for it. Not only civilly, right, in terms of fines and forfeitures and all that kind of stuff, but from a criminal standpoint, too. They ought to go after these people and throw them in fucking jail.
Oh,
But they won't.
this is the one time. This is the one time where I almost wish our laws were like China's, because do you know what they do with corrupt
Here we go, Ray.
business officials? You know what they
They
do with
round them
corrupt
up in
business-
traveling vans and harvest their organs. Am I right? There goes all our
Or-
sponsorships from China, by the way.
No,
Hey, Timmy, you
or-
need a new lung?
No, or better yet, if you're a real piece of crap, they take you out into the woods and you get one bullet to the head. That's a Chinese execution. They don't fuck around.
No,
I would
they
just like to
they
point out
definitely
we're
don't.
at number. That's number 5. We're at a streak of 5 of Ray getting on the topic of murdering somebody. I love you for it. I'm not making fun of you. I just want to say I hope we keep it intact. I hope we keep it intact.
We got to
all we
keep it
can do.
going for sure. It's too funny. Yeah. So I don't know what the correct. Here's the thing: is from what I can tell you about playing in the fertilizer space, and I can tell you, very honestly, that I bought material from Mosaic through a broker, and here's the thing: is in the fertilizer space, it is so small. Pretty much, if you are getting phosphorus anywhere in the United States, Mosaic has either touched it or produced it. And you don't really have a lot of options outside of that. It's kind of like if you want potash in the United States, you've got 2 companies that you can get it from. You can either get it out of Utah, and I'm drawing a blank on what that company is, or you can get it from Nutrien. Nutrien owns all the potash mines. Aside, that is it. Phosphorus, Mosaic owns phosphorus, and they actually have lots of different products. So let me kind of scoop in here and give you a rundown on the different ones we see. They do some potassium treating. Oh Lord, I'm running out of time, but let me see if I can do this. They do some micronutrient manufacturing there, magnesia, boron. They do a refined potash, right? And phosphorus. So they do potash purification where it looks like they are dissolving it and then spray drying it, and then they do phosphorus. So really a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of micronutrients. They resell Anuvia and phosphorus, and that makes up pretty much everything they do. And so it's hard for anybody to come in and offer any kind of alternative to this to force these people out because they have become ingrained in everything that happens, even down to the consumer level, as just eaters of food. We are 100% reliant on Mosaic right now. They have a monopoly on the phosphorus market. So if we plan on eating food that is grown with phosphorus, which is a direct requirement, then we're relying on Mosaic. So what is the solution? If we go in, we shut them down and jail them, what do we do at that point, right? I think that's where the layers of complexity step in here, and there's not an easy answer for certain.
Sell it to Bezos, man.
Jeff Bezos. All right, J Pink, we're going to move on here to the next section. And I'll tell you what this is going to be, gentlemen. We got a 2-part approach. We were kind of joking in the show before the show there. But what we have done is J Pink has gone out and had some custom whiskey glasses made. Okay? So if you go to thegrassfactor.tv and you go to shop, you're going to see right there custom whiskey glasses. Custom whiskey glasses. So these are engraved with Thirsty Thursday. They have the Grass Factor logo on there. The glasses are actually manufactured up in Ohio. They're laser etched here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So one thing we can guarantee is that this is not lead tainted whiskey glasses. And this money is going to be rolled right into help offset the cost of another project we have going on. And so if you enjoy the show and you want to offer some support, head on over to thegrassfactor.tv, head to the shop, and check out one of our whiskey glasses. Thank you, J Pink, for putting that together. Also, we are coming to you for Hone Health. honehealth.com/thegrassfactor. Gentlemen, we're men here, and it's important now that we have reached this time in our lives, because I guarantee you the majority of people listening right now are 30 and above. If you're 30 and above, it's seriously time to start thinking about hormone optimization. And that's why I want you to go to the Grass Factor, go to honehealth.com/the Grass Factor and order a test kit. and just see where you lie. You may be good. You may have nothing to worry about, but at least you have that data set to allow you to make adjustments in the event you're not okay. I'm 34 years old. I took the test, and you know what? I wasn't okay. I was blown away by the results I got. I was diagnosed as clinically deficient in testosterone. I didn't think that was possible. I have kids. I have no sexual or reproductive health problems that I've run into, and so I was actually stunned. So what's interesting though is that a lot of the symptoms that I described that the doctor described to me, like the time it takes to recover from an injury, or the excuse of I'm just getting older. How many times do we say that? Yeah, I'm just getting older. That's why I'm having this experience or that experience. Well, guess what? That could be a symptom of low testosterone. Get it checked out. It's only $45, and now you'll be armed with the data set and have the tools right at your disposal to be able to do something about it. You get a real blood test. You get to meet with real doctors. honehealth.com/the grass factor. Men, take care of yourself. Do it for your family, if for nothing else. All right. We're going to be moving on to this is some good one here. We're going to be moving on to our burns. Yeah,
It'll never
you
get
heard
old.
it right there, boy. She was on fire in that recording, and you know, listen. When I put that together, this is no lie. I downloaded that clip, and it was it was like a fight or something or exercise, you know, and it reminded me of that old Adam Sandler skit, Sex or Weightlifting. Does anybody remember that?
No dumbbells in me, just my balls.
Yeah. Yeah. When I heard that lady making those noises, I was like, that's not exercise or a fight or whatever it was. I was like, that is horrific. That is nasty, sir. Okay, so headline number one here of our burns. Number one, farm pesticides killing more bees, according to a study. This is from BBC News. And listen, I don't think this is ever going to lighten up on the industry. From today and this point moving forward, we are going to be inundated with more of this. And it's going to create huge amounts of fear related to food and food production. Is this going to break up the mega farm groups, farm companies that are out there that are presently going through these massive acquisition programs? And is this what's going to allow us to get back to smaller independent farms? I don't know. Because as we do, how much of this is going to be interpreted by bureaucracy that we need to do something overreaching as a whole and shut down a significant section of farming and then lead to a disaster a la the old Soviet Revolution and what's currently taking place in like North Korea and stuff. It's not funny to me. It is not funny. There's people starving out there.
That was weird. That was weird.
I heard I heard you cackling out there.
I did. That was interesting. It was interesting tied together. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just picturing you connecting the dots a paragraph ahead, and I'm thinking, what?
Could you hear
fuck
the
is
neurons firing in my brain?
It's like this dude just got transported back to Knoxville 2005, like that. He's in the basement cranking out a paper, just whacked out of his mind, just writing stuff. Hey, dude, it's Sunday night. I got to fill up like 6 more pages. So let's talk about fucking North Korean bees, dude. Yes.
I should not have related that to the government's trying to kill us, but somehow I ended up on that topic.
All right. Forget
Somebody
it.
else talk
Go
about
ahead.
this. No. Ryan, chime in.
All right. So the thing that they looked at, I'm glad they mentioned this in the article, Ray, because this was interesting because, they're talking about parasites that have been present in much higher populations in these bee colonies that nobody's really looked at, right? And nobody has said, hey, what's going on with this? They're just isolating down to the pesticide level and saying, hey, here's what's being applied exogenously to all these habitats and pollinators that these bees frequent. And so we kind of played both sides of it there, where they said, hey, there does seem to be some reduction in the parasite levels in some of these colonies in the small sample size that they looked at. I think what you're going to see is what Matt was saying. The neonicotinoids are clearly on the hit list. I mean, once we get through all the glyphosate stuff, the neonics they have a target right on the back of their head, right? Like right behind the ear. It's going to be quick. You're not even going to know it, and it's just going to happen, and that'll be it. See, I get to talk about people getting killed too, Ray. But all three of us have partaken, right? So we're good. We'll check this box. So the other thing that I worry about too here is, and it's only been talked about a little bit, but the thing you're going to hear more and more about, especially where it's still on label, is chlorothalonil, because there is a definite link between chlorothalonil and harm to pollinators. Ray, what do you think?
I did not know that.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Well, let's first break down the neonicotinoid issue, because guess what country does not have an issue with bee decline? Australia.
Educate me. Really?
They have Australia does not have a problem with bee decline, because trying to get organisms or anything into Australia, good fucking luck. It's almost like you trying to travel to Hawaii from the continental US right now. I mean, Australia has always had an extremely stringent biosecurity program, such that it is virtually impossible for somebody to import, say, bees contaminated with parasites into Australia, whereas Hawaii and the United States, bees just, come, go, get transported. So they're carrying varroa mite, so they're carrying the equivalent of bee HIV. It doesn't matter. It's all good. But because Australia uses the same stuff that the European Union, United Kingdom, and United States uses. I mean, they have neonicotinoids, they have carbamates, they have organophosphates. In fact, Australia is a little bit crazier because they're not under the environmental and safety directives of the European Union, so they're pretty crazy with their chemicals out there. But they do not have a bee decline issue. I mean, they use chlorothalonil there. No problem.
That's pretty interesting. And, later on here in this article, and I got to say kudos for the BBC even bringing this up, because a lot of times this is not brought up, and that is the issue of mites, right? And they're talking about how specifically they feel their data collection is showing, and they actually have a little picture here from the University of Hawaii, that a resistance to the varroa mite is on the increase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to be a good thing, right? I mean, because I know there's two sides to this argument, right? And for those that are listening at home, basically the EPA is saying neonicotinoids and pesticides, maybe not necessarily the EPA, but the environmentalists are saying.
Yeah,
environmental NGOs.
The pesticides are taking care of the bees, and then there are the other groups that say, well, actually, it's the increase in this specific mite that is causing problems with the bee population. And so you kind of have these two sides of the arguments, and not really many people talk a whole lot about this mite issue that could be causing, and again, this is not my area of expertise, so I don't want to pretend like I've got some hard-lined opinion on it because I don't understand it enough. Like I just learned, for instance, that chlorothalonil had a direct links to negative impacts on pollinators. I had no idea. So, but I think it's fair that they did address that, and it's interesting to hear about Australia and them not facing the same issue, but they're also not dealing with the same mite issue that we are here in
Mites,
in the States.
mites and latent, viral and fungal infections, because in the absence of the parasite infections and diseases, the bees are not adversely affected by subtoxic amounts of, say, imidacloprid or clothianidin. They're not affected. Whereas, I'm going to be, rational and reasonable and hypothesize that in the presence of parasites, though, trace amounts of a neonicotinoid or chlorothalonil is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back in the case of the bees. But in the absence of those parasites and infections, the bees are rather resilient, and they will live with, label rates of neonicotinoids and chlorothalonil just fine.
What do you think, Ryan? Where are we at with it from your perspective?
There's just so much that is unknown, because I think we need to get a bigger sample size on this and really understand too what are we giving up, because imidacloprid, we think about that in turf in terms of grubs and other soil insects, and really from a cropping standpoint, like it has a much wider standpoint in the market that makes it something that if you take it away, what do you replace it with, and what is out there that's safer, right? So in turf, we have a celiprin, and that's safer. But if we look at that, we talked about this before with finality of worker safety and things like that. But when we take it and look at just the pure cost on imidacloprid versus celiprin, we're literally talking like 20 plus X difference in cost. So can you pass that on to your customer? Can you absorb that if you're a sports field manager, if you're a golf course superintendent, just to be safer from an environmental standpoint? I don't know. That's the tough thing. The only thing I do know is that Ray made the comment about HIV for bees. I thought about Queen Bee, and then I thought about Freddie Mercury. I knew there was a joke there, but I couldn't put it together. It really makes me mad. I tried.
Yeah, well, and if anybody out there disagrees that Freddie Mercury is not one of the greatest rock and roll stars at all times, I will fight you. I will fight you.
I will fight you. I will fight you. I will fight you. But but anyway, Matt, the other consideration is that as far as broad spectrum yet still relatively safe insect control, I consider imidacloprid to be very high on the list, because I use a lot of imidacloprid, but not for what you think. I actually use that very heavily in my tree, shrub, and flower pest control programs. That rate's very high for me, because that replaced a very unsafe spray program. Because before imidacloprid, I would be sending the likes of diazinon 30 feet up in the air for insect pests, where now I do a soil injection of imidacloprid. It's clean. It's safer for me. It's safer for bystanders. It's overall a better choice. And by the way, chlorantraniliprole or acelepryn is not a direct replacement for imidacloprid in that use case.
So I'll tell you, I had more success switching to soil drenches with the imidacloprid than I did with foliar sprays. And I'll tell you what I saw anecdotally at the time. So I used to run a tree shrub tank mix that I called Tomb, right? And it was Tall Star, Orthene, Merit, and Banner. And through continued applications year after year, I had developed such bad spider mite problems on all the properties I treated, where normally I never saw. And it just started to become a thing. I switched over to Orthene and permethrin, and it cleaned up a lot of those issues that I was having. And it wasn't long after that the research came out about imidacloprid and increasing mite infestations. Why? I don't know. I didn't go too deep in it, but I observed that with my own eyes in the midst of all of that taking place. I thought it was Tall Star. I thought Tall Star was the problem. And so that's why I removed it from the tank mix. And I chose Orthene as the systemic because it is mildly systemic, right? And so I thought it was a bit redundant to have the Merit and the Orthene in there. And it was funny how much the mite issue improved just dropping imidacloprid. Well, where I ended up adding imidacloprid back was crepe myrtle bark scale. So we started getting that real bad in the South. And I found that soil drenching imidacloprid was one of the most effective ways to take care of that issue. And you're right. Incredibly clean, easy. You're not having to air blast everything with the JD9. I preferred it. All right, we're going to move on to the next headline here. And boy, this is almost a joke in and of itself. Lawn Starter acquires Lawn Love. And for those of you that are wondering, if you go back, you'll see I did a video where I used the Lawn Love service. And I'll tell you right now, Lawn Love was a complete and total joke. They were trying to make it come across as like the Uber of lawn care applications, right? Where they contact you and they're like, hey, go treat this address. And here's the thing. They're 100% reliant on the customer telling you what they want done to their property. And we all know that 90% of people contacting you for a service isn't because they know what needs to be done. They just know what their desired outcome they want to have happen, but they don't understand the intricacies of how to get there. And the Lawn Love platform did not allow you to explore those intricacies, right? They just told you that if you go do this, it's going to be $30. And if it's anything over that, submit your receipts, and then we'll try and get that approved to the customer. And it was an odd, kind of a bizarre thing. And I reached out to the CEO of the company and talked to him, and he basically was like, yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Good luck. So Lawn Starter has raised $17.7 million in funding. They have 12 different investor groups here, everyone from Gary Vaynerchuk, Rob Taylor, Bull Creek Capital, Binary Capital, Ronnie Cahan. Not all of these I know. I know some of them. Obviously, Gary Vaynerchuk with Vaynerchuk Media out there is a pretty big one. I don't know specifically what he put in, but now they have enough capital to go ahead and make the acquisition of Lawn Love. They did not release the financial specifics here, and rightfully so. If I had to guess, Lawn Love was on the verge of failure, and they probably scooped it up for pretty cheap. I don't know. Maybe it was doing well, but I don't know. I don't think this platform, it may work for mowing lawns. I understand they're trying to appeal to the millennial, where I would say millennials do not value the relationship that the people in our previous generation did, right? That relationship between a provider and, or I think about it, especially in terms of equipment sales, right? I don't call on my sales rep for information because I don't want to get sucked into a 45-minute conversation about the kids and drinking beer or my favorite sports team or whatever the case may be. I want an answer to my question. I want to move on. I don't have time for that shit. What are y'all's takes on it? How not just yes, Lawn Love and Lawn Starter. Tell me what your thoughts on that are, but more so the millennial buying pattern versus what the pattern was say maybe even Gen Xers, or especially the boomer relationship based sales philosophy that's out there?
I'm gonna let the Gen Xer go first.
Okay.
That's you.
Here's what.
No,
No, actually,
I'm just kidding. I'm
you know,
kidding.
I'm,
stop him.
okay. I think that we are headed for bad trouble because already, guys, how many times have we seen people, you know, buying products and not understanding, you know, how to use them safely, how to use them well? Because I have the opposite experience in that prior to the internet, there was a quote unquote garden shop in the middle of Honolulu that was run by a person that knew his stuff. And this guy basically sold pro grade stuff right next to the ortho stuff. But
Hmm.
he would basically tell people how to safely, you know, use it, apply it, how to keep themselves out of trouble. Because, true story, up until his shop closed, I remember seeing stuff like Durspan, Diazinon 4E, Simazine wettable powder, to name a few things. And those were not consumer items. That's, you know, pro grade products, you know. But what I'm saying is that I don't see the education of people regarding why they're even buying and applying that product. I don't see the education. Because millennials and beyond, they hear about it on social media, and next thing you know, it's tenacity. It's any number of things, right, guys? Any number of products get sucked into that. Oh, I heard about it on Facebook, or oh, my favorite, I heard about MSM. Well, let's go by that. Where, you know, I even told you, to this day I get mildly nervous opening that bottle because I know what it can do.
And okay, so I'll say this first: is the reason that this is a burn is because, you know, and Matt's talked about this at length before, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. Is that this is oversimplification to a point that far exceeds the shit that we bitch about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically saying, "Oh, I've got weeds in my lawn, come spray it." Okay, well, let's say that, you know, that applicator gets there and some Swiss Army knife of a chemical cabinet on his truck decides, oh, you know what, I'm going to spray MSMA. Let's just say that that's what happens. Okay, now that person calls Lawn Love 2 or 3 weeks later and says, hey, there's still weeds in my yard, come back and fix it. Are we sure that that same applicator is going to come out? And are we sure that the person that does come out is going to know what took place out at that property previous, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's safeguards built in their system. I would love to find out. I'm gonna just theorize here for a second and say no, that there's not. There's none of those safeguards built in.
I
And
can
again, this
confirm,
is
no, there's not.
Okay, so again, oversimplifying it to satisfy a need in the market, right? Somebody has oversimplified this need in the market that people want to have nice lawns. They don't want to fuck around with True Green. They don't want to call a local person, you know, like Lush Lawns or like Green Dock or Nate Alleman or somebody else that we've interviewed on our program, right? And say, hey, I want to have a top-notch lawn, and I want you to do it for the entire season, because really, we all know that's what it's going to take to even have a chance at doing it. And these
Right.
motherfuckers are trying to distill it down and say, hey, you just call us one time and we'll do whatever you need. Well, I mean, doesn't this just turn into fucking whoring out the shit? Like, this is just turning tricks, right? This is turning tricks. This is, you know, a blowjob in the alley or an around the world in the motel room that has the hourly rates, right? That's all this is. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. for our industry. It really is. And the
horrible.
people that are partaking in this from a service provider standpoint, I'd love to know why. Like I'm dead serious. If you're listening to this and you do this, I'd love you to come on our show and just explain how it works in more detail. Obviously Matt saw zero value in it and got out pretty quick. But if there are people that are doing this and having success, I'd love to hear about it and why and maybe how it works for you, because maybe there is something there. And I'd love to be educated. So I'll keep an open mind. But on its face, if you're asking me my opinion, that's what I think. The whole millennial thing, like, go ahead, Ray.
No, I think it's garbage because I actually have the opportunity to be, that gigolo pleasuring desperate housewives and widows, okay? Because
wait,
guess
we're
what
still
kind of
talking about
phone call
lawns?
yeah, we're still talking about lawns.
Oh, okay,
Because-
okay, yeah. Had me confused there for a
because-
second.
Okay, because Ryan, how many times a week I get a call from somebody saying, "Hey, my lawn is a shit show. It's full of, sedges, broadleaf weeds, grassy weeds. Can you possibly come by
Wait.
and give me a price to just spray it?" And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that because if I did, it doesn't work. Guess whose fault it is? Right, Ryan? Guess
You.
whose fault is it if that? Yeah, it's my fault if that application doesn't work. I get to look like the fool.
I would love to know that too.
And-
What the dispute resolution looks like that for Lawn
Process.
Love and all. Like that is probably he did it. No, he did it. And who loses out there? The consumer.
Yeah, because
So
the closest thing to an
ahead.
all-in-one would be is if I blasted a lawn with, say, Tribute Total and Dismiss. That would be the closest thing to an all-in-one, fry everything, burn and return type of an application. But I know for myself, even something like that requires 2 to 3 applications to actually kill it. So, a one shot quickie behind the bar isn't it, Ryan. Sorry.
Is that how they did it back in the 80s, Ray?
Yeah.
this is the last thing I'll say about it is the first property I got sent to was an aeration overseed in like April or May, and that's here in Knoxville, which is not feasible. And you get there, and there is a 120-year-old oak tree in this front yard. The front yard is maybe 1,200 square feet, and then this tree is obviously just
man.
shading out everything in it. And could I have aerated and seeded that and collected my $120 or whatever it paid to do that? Yes. But, I called the customer. I had a good conversation with them, and I was like, it's not going to work like you think it is. Don't do this. If you want to address the tree, then yeah, something can be done. Otherwise, landscape it and be done with it, because this is not what you think it is. It's not that simple. And we had a really long conversation. Turns out he was a chemist at Oak Ridge National Labs, and he was very appreciative of the feedback, because obviously he was buying something that he didn't understand what he was buying. All right, we're going to move on to our next section here. But before we do, we are independent creators. And in order to remain independent, because we are never going to get a sponsorship from one of the big boys like Syngenta or Bayer or any of the other fertilizer producers out there, especially after we just shit all over Mosaic too. Feel free to support us by going to patreon.com / burn and return, patreon.com / burn and return. And buy us an airport beer. Yeah, it may be a little bit of expensive beer, but you know what? It helps us to continue to do this, and we are incredibly appreciative of it. Because if it wasn't for viewer support, we would be out there having to whore ourselves over a Sunjoe dethatcher and pretending like we really enjoy using that machine. Or you would see me with a Toro snowblower down here in the South, running it over gravel, pretending like I'm blowing snow. And so we don't do that because we have listener support. So thank you, Burn and Return. Patreon.com/burn-and-return. All right, we're going to move on to our saving graces of the week, our returns.
I'm back.
All right, so this is what's interesting. We were talking about cloud seeding last week, and I thought it was just some crazy shit coming out of the Arab Emirates. Turns out, nope, cloud seeding is a thing, and it's a thing right here in the United States. 8 states are seeding clouds right now. Unfortunately, I'm going to jump immediately to the punchline here, and the punchline is that they're not really seeing anything life-changing about it for the time being. But they do go into pretty significant detail in this article here, and feel free to scroll through it and read it and try and come to some sort of understanding about it, more so than I intend to, because the part that I pulled away that it wasn't exactly highly effective for the time being kind of turned me off of it. But turns out it's a real thing, and they're doing it right here in the United States. Boys, are we in the wrong business? Should we start?
I said in the pre-show, you know, first of all, last week we talked about the amount of 6-foot bongs that were cleared in this development meeting for this product, right? I mean, they were just, yeah, definitely. Now, as I said in the pre-show, this is the kind of Shark Tank guys went in the bathroom in the stall right after this, jerked off, and was like, this was the golden goose, guys. This is fucking it. I've got it. Seeding clouds, man. Like, everybody was so jazzed about this.
Did you read
I'm trying to think.
There's an acronym for the
what?
project called SNOWY, and it stands for Seeded and Natural Orographic Wintertime Clouds. And I couldn't help but laugh when I read that. I don't even know what that means, but it is a buzzword life changer.
You know that was on the pitch deck. Like 1,000% that was on the pitch deck. And somebody got so excited about that they told like people they didn't even know anything about it, that didn't even care. Like they're telling their wife that night, like, these guys from Snowy pitched me tonight, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care. You know, where are we going on vacation next month? Talk to me about something I care about. You heartless piece of shit. All right, Ray. I mean, this is. The only thing I'll say about this is that this is a microcosm for me of like the grass thing in general. Like people get so frustrated with like the 100-year-old oak tree that you just talked about. We're literally trying to harness nature and go against the grain with everything that we do. And there are going to be times that you are wildly successful, sometimes through your own efforts, sometimes through things that you had no control over and just happened fortunately. But when you sit there and try to do it to this level, like this is beyond Jurassic Park shit. Like Michael Crichton wrote that as a fucking fiction book. If he would have wrote something about seeding clouds and said, dude, this is it, we're going to make a movie about this, James Cameron, all those dudes have been like, Michael, you are absolutely high. Like you've done some PCP, you've got some angel dust in there, and I have no idea where the hell you're going with this, but you ought to get yourself checked into a clinic like now. It's serious.
Yeah,
It's bad.
You need to detox, because cloud seeding was actually an old idea dating back to, I want to say, World War II, and it basically has never worked. It has never worked as intended, and I even hear chatter about worldwide geoengineering, where, for example, there's an idea out there to aerosolize particles of some kind to make the skies more opaque to sunlight, and that is in an effort to quote unquote delay or modify global warming. But what a bad freaking idea. No, let me tell you why that's a bad idea. If it is warm in one place and cool in another, guess what happens when you globally make the skies more opaque and reduce the amount of solar radiation and heat reaching the earth? The cold places get extremely cold. Okay? I mean, talk about fucking around and not knowing what you're going to get when you do. I mean, and even for cloud seeding, to me, that falls into that category of fucking around and not understanding what you're going to get out of it, because one of the issues with seeding into clouds is that the weather you create might not necessarily affect where geographically you intended to affect.
Yeah.
So you do it in one place and you create a problem somewhere else.
This is like that
Because-
guy in Jurassic Park, the Australian guy that
Mhm.
got eaten by the velociraptors that he kept. This is a total analogy right here. I can see it.
R-
Clever
right?
girl.
I mean, because that is why, for example, the hot or the sore subject here in Hawaii is all of the contrails slash chemtrails that used to be laid over Hawaii from, I want to say, the 1990s up until about 2006. Because everybody's asking, what effect did that have on our weather? Because while they were doing the contrails, and we saw the contrails, we were in the middle of a drought. But when the contrails finally stopped, a decade of epic rain followed.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that last time, and
So,
I can't believe that though. That you know that wasn't studied in deeper capacity to
thought-
understand what those downstream effects might be. Right?
mhm.
I don't know. I would. There's some. You know, we think of meteorologists, and when we think about people on television and things like that, and there are some great people on TV. There's some fakes and whatever too, but there are some dynamite research meteorologists out there that can tell you a lot about just whether, not when I say over the years, I'm talking like over millennia, that we have really understood the patterns if I looked at it and things like that. And I would love to get their opinion on, okay, when you're trying to manipulate this to this extent on this local of a level, what right, what would it really look like? Like what could really happen here? And also if it went completely south, what could happen, right?
Mhm.
Besides nothing. I mean, that's just saying that nothing would happen, but I don't know. That would be interesting to, for whatever reason. I think we'll do a deeper dive on this at some point this winter. You know, when we're struggling for turf topics, we might have to do a cloud seeding episode with a cloud seeding expert, point counterpoint with a research meteorologist. That might be something fun.
That would be fun. All right, I'm going to take us into our next topic here, and we've got another good guy. This one coming out of New Jersey. Wayne, New Jersey man's lawn mowing charity is growing at an overwhelming rate. He's now in 16 states. So, Brian Schwartz. This man lost his job due to COVID-19. He was an advertising dude, from what I understand, what I read through there. And he said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to keep this going by doing some landscaping. And so he did it. He was doing it for free, and it kind of took off. So now he's got sponsors that allow him to be able to continue to do this. He's got other people volunteering time to be able to do this, and this is where the community comes together and does good for one another, and I appreciate that. So good for these guys. I want to mow your lawn.com. Hey, keep up the good work. I love seeing community impact like that. I think that's a great thing.
No doubt. And I mean, a guy like that takes a negative of losing his job, and rather than bitching about it or taking the extra money when he didn't really need it or whatever, he found a way to do something that clearly he loves. Like, you wouldn't do this if you didn't love doing it, right? And to do it to help people. They're talking about cancer patients, elderly people, just like we talked about with Rodney Smith, I think in our first episode, where he's inspiring young people. This guy's just literally taking it and making it his own thing, his own nonprofit that goes around and does this and tries to connect other people and communities to do the same thing. So, you don't think about that part of it of, okay, I'll put it in this, what would you do if you couldn't mow your lawn? Would you call somebody? Would you feel ashamed of, would you not have the money to do it? Would you not have the time to even think about it? All those types of things. I mean, there's a ton of different reasons why, and that's why I always, when I drive past, somebody's house and it's like, the lawn's unkept or something like that, try to have some empathy and say, hey, who knows why, right? Maybe they're not a lazy POS. Maybe they're just going through some stuff. Maybe they're sick. Maybe whatever, right? And it's people like this that will step in and help out.
Yeah. Because believe it or not, guys, I don't only deal with the, ultra wealthy absentee owners. A couple of my customers are actually, they're literally on their way home because they're elderly. They can't do it themselves anymore. And okay, just this week I started another lawn rehab. Ryan, Seashore Pest Balance.
Oh wow!
And this was a guy who told me up until he couldn't do it anymore due to ankylosing spondylitis, which is a form of arthritis. He told me he kept that grass in almost golf condition. But I looked at it before I put my mower on it, and I asked him, okay, so how many years has it been since this lawn was properly cared for? He said the last time he mowed and edged it himself was about 20 years ago.
Oh since God.
Since then he's had a motley crew of characters that, okay, the last straw for him this time was his lawn person sprayed the weeds in the lawn with Roundup. And
there we go.
And when I saw the grass, my first question for this guy was, when did these spots form? Because when I see a dead area in Seashore Pespalum, I freak out because I'm automatically thinking take all patch. Okay, I'm automatically
not this time.
Patch. Yeah, not this time, and I'm breathing a little sigh of relief because if it's take all patch, Ryan, it gets strenuous. Having to nurse the grass and maintain it, but it's like, oh, it's Roundup. Okay, then I was like a little relieved because some fertilizer and water will fix, that kind of damage.
A little ocean water, and you're back in business.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move on to our next topic here, and I think this is pretty interesting. In the realm of fertilizer, farmers make progress in improving water quality, but much work still remains. And what's interesting is what they found was that instead of applying a season's worth of nitrogen at one time, dividing their applications into lesser amounts, but increasing the frequency, helped improve the quality of their water runoff. Interesting. It's almost as if what's been practiced and their yield. What's been practiced in turfgrass for a long time and understood in turfgrass for a long time has finally made its way to agriculture. And it's been possible.
Slowly. Yeah, it's an interesting topic where this is an article from Ohio, and Ray, if you don't know what's happened here, you've mentioned water quality issues, and Hawaii and some, with water going directly to the ocean. Here in the northern half of the state, most of the water ends up in Lake Erie. And so there was a situation maybe 5 years ago that the city of Toledo, which is a city that's got, I don't know, 150, 200,000 people in it, and more in the metro, that they had to literally shut off their drinking supply water because there was so much cyanobacteria and algae right at the intake on Lake Erie that they couldn't suck water in without damaging all their pumps. So for like 3 days in the middle of the summer, they shut off all the drinking water. And that was because of all the phosphorus that was coming downstream from all these different tributaries that ended up right in that area and just caused these massive, huge algal blooms, right? And so this has been a point of contention here now for, well, it's probably, it might have been longer than 5 years ago, because there's nothing that's been made mandatory yet in terms of, the only thing that you can't do now that used to be done quite prevalently here was spreading manure on frozen fields, right? So you'd have these swine and beef producers that would sit there and just, they had to get rid of it. And they would go out there in frozen fields. That stuff would go right down into the canals along their fields and the drainage ditches, and then off to the waterways it goes. And so now, I think what these guys are starting to realize is what Matt was saying, that best management practices, it's not just, this earth-friendly tree hugger, kind of thing. There actually is merit to it. So real quick, J Pink, I sent you that picture before. If you want to throw that up real quick, if you're able to, with the push it to 105%, Scotty. There we go. So this is. Are you familiar with this one, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a great little graphic.
Me too.
This is the Nutrient Stewardship Council. They're out in Iowa, but they kind of cover everything. And so understanding these, and I don't care if you're in turf, ag, whatever, right? Horticulture, any of it. Right source, right rate, right time, right place. So, this is the kind of stuff, right, from a best practice standpoint, that when you hear us on other shows and we're quote unquote hating on other people or whatever, it's because they're not necessarily following all of these when they could be. And it's almost impossible not to when you have a perennial crop like turfgrass in a known space, right? It's not hard to follow all of these. When you're in ag and you're changing and you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of acres, that's a little bit different of a scale to change your practices. So, Ray, why don't you talk real quick about how this might impact people, warm season, cool season, doesn't matter, but how these 4 R's might apply to anybody from the average Joe to the pro.
Well, it's all about, I think, to me, bottom line is getting the most value out of every dollar you spend for fertilizer, because I frequently like to say IPM. And IPM to me doesn't stand for that no pesticides tree hugger stuff. What IPM means to me, or stands for to me, is I pay materials, therefore I don't waste them by not applying them at the right time, as the right source, at the right rate, and using good product placement practices. Like, for example, you don't see me blasting granules over a sidewalk strip or a hill strip, and about half of the granules are on the road, and the other half is on the sidewalk, and maybe only a little bit is on that 5-foot strip. That's what a 2-nozzle boom is for example. And as far as ag goes, all I gotta say about ag is it's about fucking time. Okay? Because I know these growers, they pay materials too. And then they come back and they cry to everybody about how, oh my God, it costs so much to, get that acre of, corn, and I only get, X dollars back for that, acre of corn, yet they're doing stupid shit that wastes fertilizer, puts fertilizers, where they clearly don't belong, or they're applying fertilizers at the wrong time of the year when their crop's not even uptaking it, and so therefore that's another instance where it becomes a pollutant, and then they come back and they say, oh no, corn went down, another so many cents per bushel, I'm dead, I'm in trouble. It's like, yeah, pal, uh who told you to soil load the fall before? Spend all that money, and on top of that, now you got a problem. Cry me a river.
Well, that's what they talk about in this article, is that they've figured out that these guys that are clued in here in Ohio that are doing it with those, multiple applications, is that they're able to use less fertilizer, right? So that's going to be going directly to the bottom line, and they're having more yield, which also goes directly to the bottom line. So, I hope, for my home state's sake and for the rest of the Great Lakes and all that kind of stuff, that they do take this common sense approach, because Matt hit it right on the head. Like, how many decades, I mean, literally decades, have we known this in turf? And while it's a completely different, it's an annual versus a perennial cropping system, the same tenets apply of the 4Rs, right? You can't get away from those. And overall, I just think that it's good to see this is a return for me, because people are starting to take notice that there's a better way to do things. And I hope that turf, continues to follow suit and evolve. And I think we're seeing that with MLSN and, better correlations with fertilizers, all that kind of stuff. So deeper dive topic for another time, but at least here in the Great Lakes region, the Midwest, it's good to see this for sure, from my point of view.
Yeah.
All right,
Totally good.
gentlemen, we have completed all the topics we had queued up for tonight, but before we call this to the end, let's check in with our mailbag.
You've got mail.
Hey guys, so we have an email here from Jeff, and if I wasn't using the Rode laptop, I would pull everything up. So I'm going to kind of go from memory here. But basically, he was wondering, he's graduating high school, he's in his senior year, and he's super interested in turf, and he wants to know what you guys would recommend for him to start looking into education-wise.
Where's
Oh,
he?
Lord
Did he say
have
where he's
mercy.
located?
He might have, but I can't seem to pull it up right now because everything is in chaos. But I want to say he's in the southern area, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember which state.
If Sean Smith's watching this, even though they even have a turf program, I'd tell him to go to Bama. Roll Tide.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I'm kidding.
You better be DeMay. God,
I'm kidding.
there
I
goes
don't.
the
Hey,
Ohio State bid for the SEC. You'll never get in now. I'll make sure of it. I'll be there protesting. Do y'all have a Tumors corner that I can go get some Spike 75 DF? And I'm just kidding. I
They
shouldn't
have,
say that out loud. I'll go to jail.
they have
Who was
they
that?
have
Harvey
Buckeye- they have
Updike
Buckeye
that
Grove.
poisoned the.
Harvey. Well, is that the
Do you
most?
remember
Is
Harvey
that the
Updike
most
poisoned the
southern yokel name? Is that not the most
It
southern?
was an alias.
Who are you? What's your name?
Harvey motherfucking Updike. So
Go ahead,
my
go ahead.
normal answer
Mississippi.
when people-
Mississippi.
Oh,
Mississippi, okay.
Oh, Mississippi State, baby.
Ole Miss.
That's a great
man,
turf
for
program.
sure. Bulldogs.
Normally, when people
Speaking
tell
of
me they want to
Mississippi
get
State,
into
oh, we gotta
turf,
put this up here. Go
what's
ahead.
that?
No, you
Well,
keep
my
talking. I'm missing
initial
this picture.
response is typically don't. Pick a different industry, go into something else.
Come on.
No, I think it's different for someone who's 18 and sees that as a potential for what they want to do and actually make a career out of it, kudos. Because if they're inspired that young with whatever limited exposure they've had, that's probably someone who actually takes it incredibly serious. And I know that there's a lot of people that kind of reach the midlife crisis in their life, right? And they're like, I've been working indoors for a long period of time, and I wish I worked outdoors. And so they want to make that jump, but they're used to, they may be coming from some other career where they have stability and they don't have to learn how to manage cash flow for a 6-month season or an 8-month season and all that fun stuff. Whereas if you kind of come up through it in its entirety, you learn that along the way, and it's not as painful, because when you're learning that in your 20s, it's not as difficult when you're in your 40s and you've got 2 or 3 kids that you have to take care of as well. So anyway, if you're in Mississippi, definitely check out Mississippi State's turf program. It is top notch. Everybody that I've worked with out of that program, and I know a couple guys from Memphis. So Ken Crenshaw owns a company there in Memphis called Irby Systems. Incredible company. Ken's an incredible guy. He runs one hell of an awesome business. He's incredibly knowledgeable. Everybody I've known that has come through that program is top notch. But because you are in the South, you also have exposure to a lot of different places that you can go, right? So, I would recommend you check out UGA. I definitely would recommend you check out University of Tennessee. The way that program has evolved over the last 10 years is second to none. With Dr. Sorokin coming in, and your favorite out of University of Hawaii, Ray, that we picked up and moved over there. And, now Dr. Michael Woods is also an associate professor of University of Tennessee. And they're really producing some quality guys. Like, for instance, Brandon Horvath, who came through the program, is
Stingray Steve.
Slaying it. Why are you doing this? Why are you hating on Stingray Steve? Listen, he is one of the great college football. He's one of the great college football commentators and reporters that's out there. I can't believe you know about Stingray Steve. I thought that was a Southern thing.
I'm not. No, a Southern thing. Go ahead, Ray. You go first.
Okay. I'd probably recommend, yes, you get your education, but in conjunction with that education, sir, you had better start thinking about how you're going to intern yourself and get yourself acquainted with the real world, because when you can combine real world experience and real world knowledge with book learning, then you become unstoppable. Am I right about that, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. And I can tell, oh boy, this, from the get-go, when post school, I learned how much I did not know about anything. So in addition to what Ray is telling you there, line up experience. Also, I would look at studying outside of just the turf field if you can spend the extra time and do it. Study business and study chemistry. Go a little bit deeper than you need to on those two particular topics, because that really exposes you to every facet of the industry. And if you want to take it even one step further, you could study manufacturing, like maybe take, if you got a chance to take an industrial engineering class or something like that. That way, literally any base is covered where you can step into anything. Some other specialty stuff would be like precision ag. If they have, I think Mississippi State actually has some classes you can take on precision ag. So that's something to look into, because I think we're going to see a lot of bleed over from ag into turf regarding that as well. But step outside of your comfort zone. Yes, it's one thing to learn as much as you can about grass from a very technical level, but also from an experience level. And then the other things that are going to make you marketable across different companies in the industry, like, for instance, a background in chemistry, good chemistry knowledge, and then also business knowledge where you can go open your own business.
Exactly. And I'm just going to add that one of the things that really made a difference for me is how deeply I went into soils, chemistry, plant pathology, entomology, uh, you know, botany, because that essentially differentiates you from somebody that just cuts grass or sprays grass to somebody that actually knows why the grass is even growing. And when you know why, that makes you different. You know, why, knowing why makes you different.
What you got, Ryan? I see you stewing.
Oh, no, this is a really really close one to me. I mean, I'm very passionate about people that want to get in the industry, and especially people that know from a young age. I was very fortunate, and I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I'll just say that I was 16 years old and knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I mean, I have to thank for that is surrounding myself with the right people. And I would say that that's number one is people over places. Is trying to find the right people to work for, regardless of where they're at, and don't necessarily worry that, hey, I worked at this prestigious place or this place that's going to look good on my resume. Don't worry about any of that. It seems very, very in vogue when you're young and you think you need to make it, but if you go work for somebody who can teach you a lot and that will give you the opportunity and empower you to go out there and do great things, let you fuck up a little bit, right? Safely, like not like completely burn down the shed, but like start the fire in the shed, but put it out in a very short order so that the fire department doesn't get called and you don't get to pay a civil fine. I don't know where I got that from, but it just came to me. But in any regard, I do think that Mississippi State is a great program. It's a good place to look. I would just tell this kid, hey, if you want to get on and jam with us sometime and just talk, I think that's the best way. Is just feel you out. Doesn't have to be anything formal. Doesn't have to be live on YouTube where you're like on blast with everybody. But we'd love to help you out. I think all three of us here, we're not going to be around forever. We'll all be dead in the grave someday, and somebody will have to be spraying behind us. Somebody will have to be, answering that lawn love call when we need the tropical signal grass taken out of our yard, Ray. Somebody's going to have to answer that because you're not going to be there to do it. You're going to be retired in Fiji at that point.
You can only hope.
So, like I said, I think for this individual, find the right people. Get on here though, and seriously, I would welcome a phone conversation, whatever. Don't think we're too big for it. We'd love to help you out.
Did you hear that, buddy? Come hop on. We'll do an off the show segment or off the air segment. Hell, we can do an on the air segment too. This kid may be like, no, hell no. I'm gonna go live, and I'm gonna pour my heart out on the table right here in front of all you guys, because that's the stupid shit I would do, right? I don't know.
Well, just be wary of other people that say they have golf course experience that are going to try and tell you what to do. Don't listen to those people.
Ooh, yeah. Watch out for them.
The people that have had the bullets flying over their head at the car dealership.
Hey, should I start putting my wife in all my thumbnails? Can I do that? Is that too spicy?
I think.
Is that too much? Is that too spicy? Is that too much heat?
Is it too spicy? No, it's not too spicy. Is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna. You have to be a real fucking douchebag.
Is it trailer park? Is it trailer park if I do that? Tell me that.
I mean, just a trailer park. I don't know. I mean, do they play? Do they have a key party at the trailer park ever?
Don't ask questions you know the answer to, damn it. You know the answer to that. That was, you set yourself up to make yourself laugh on that one.
Maybe I did, but it was still funny just to think about it. Like, yeah, Teresa, we're going down here. We're going. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. I mean, I'll just say this is that,
Honey, pick that Dallas grass so I can get a thumbnail picture. Put it in your mouth like the old farmer pictures Papaw.
I'm seriously, I'm speechless, which is usually not the case, but I can't think of any reason why you should do that if you have any self-respect. And I think the individual that we're talking about lost all of his, maybe at birth, probably at birth.
You're insinuating that I have a decent amount of self-respect left, and I'll say that I'm somewhere between a quarter tank and empty. All right, so I'm not too far away. All right,
You're on a moped though.
We'll get this thing wrapped up. Is there anything else y'all want to touch on before we head out?
No, hey, 3 episodes in. Grateful for the support. Grateful for everybody that tunes in and listens to us cackling about all this dumb shit. But it's important to us. And, you know, we have our Thursday show where we interview people, but this is our chance, just the 3 of us, to sit down, talk, shoot the shit, and learn about other ways that Ray fantasizes people dying.
Well, hopefully, I don't get taken in as the next serial killer.
No. You seem more like a you could write some books. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, we just need to get you like a ghostwriter, and you could probably come up with some fucking doozies, man. Just self-publish right on Amazon. I think it'd be great. All right,
Somebody
done.
suggest that as a show title. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/burn and return. Also, check out our custom engraved, custom etched whiskey glasses. Something different, something nobody else is doing. J Pink designed all these. He had them made, sourced them all locally out of Ohio, and then finished here in Knoxville. We actually packaged it. Well, actually, J Pink packages and ships them all out personally. So you can head over to thegrassfactor.tv, head to the shop, and you'll see it listed there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.